It's time to leaf through the international papers now. In fact, it's not me that's been doing it, it's Frans Vrumelo who's here on the set. Good morning to you. Norway continues to make the headlines, and some of the newspapers looking at how it's affected the Muslim community in Norway.
Absolutely. We're going to take a look at an article in The Independent, according to which this past week has been a roller coaster of emotion for Norway's Muslim community, starting out with a mix of fear at first, because originally people thought maybe it was a radical Islamist terrorist, and so they thought they might be target, then a feeling of relief that it wasn't someone from their own community, and then this feeling of collective horror and grief. Now, as you know, the self-proclaimed killer Anders Breivik said he was waging a war against Islam and multiculturalism, and a lot of Muslims in Norway wonder if other people in the country feel the same way against them. Now, of the 4.7 million people in Norway, 11% are of foreign origin, and 600,000 of them are Muslim. Most hail from Pakistan, Somalia, Iraq, and Iran. And though there's some resentment over a perceived lack of integration, there's also an intense feeling of solidarity among the Muslim community. According to one man originally from Somalia, he said, "Norway is my home. I share the sadness with everyone else."
And a lot of the papers also focusing on the accused man and asking whether he could be part of a wider network, and also kind of asking why he might have gone about this in the first place.
Absolutely. It's been interesting to see in the recent couple of days exactly, all these newspapers are trying to analyze how could he have committed such an act, and in what context did this happen, and what can explain such a horrible act. And there's an interesting piece in The Guardian by Simon Jenkins, who says that, the media has been trying to find an explanation, but he says that this Norwegian tragedy is just that. It's just a tragedy, and it doesn't signify anything, and it shouldn't be forced to. And he says that the man isn't insane, and he's an exception, and that Anders Breivik does not tell us anything about Norway or the state of modern society, etc. He says that this desperate search to find meaning is actually dangerous, and to kind of seek normality in this abnormality is going to give it meaning. And he says that this democracies should not be having such a hysterical reaction in trying to explain this.
Interesting way of looking at it. Now, Libya also in the spotlight, a story we've been covering over the last few days to do with Britain and France now saying that he could stay in the country as long as he leaves power.
Absolutely. This is a piece in The Guardian by Jonathan Steele, who says that this is an enormous change for the two NATO nations, given that they were the ones that did the most to get the coalition going to start bombing Tripoli in the spring to produce regime change. So now it appears that Gaddafi is holding tight, and that France and Britain have to think seriously about a negotiated end to war rather than a military one. And he says that he applauds this move, and says that it means that Britain and France are gradually getting in step with the UN and the African Union. And he says that he hopes that because NATO realizes that it's in a stalemate, and because this war is becoming increasingly unpopular in NATO nations, he really hopes that that NATO will find a negotiated solution.
Now, the hunger crisis in Somalia are also featuring a lot of the newspapers. You pulled out a piece from an Arabic international newspaper whose headquarters are in London.
Absolutely. This is an interesting analysis of the drought in Somalia, and actually comparing it to what's happening in the Arab Spring. Now, according to this article, it says that it's too bad that the horrific human tragedy in Somalia has not been receiving as much media attention as the Arab Spring. Now, as you know, the Arab Spring had a tremendous impact in the media amongst politicians and intellectuals, and there was a common goal of human dignity involved. And according to this article, of course, the Arab Spring deserves such attention, but what's at stake in Somalia is a question of survival. People are just, they're threatened with starvation, and they're just trying to survive. And according to the article, it's interesting, when the UN declared famine in Somalia, a lot of conspiracy theorists said that it was a ploy to facilitate intervention in Somalia. And this article says, well, that's exactly why Arabs should intervene in Somalia to save people from starvation. He says it's an opportunity to avoid foreign intruders such as missionaries or political organizations or even the military with their agendas. And furthermore, it says that the sum that's required for relief, some $300 million according to the UN, is not enormous for Arab oil-producing countries. And according to this article, it's a duty for Muslims to intervene.
Okay. All right. Frans Vrumelo there with the international papers here on France 24. Do stay with us if you can.